wrapping up the Oregon-Indiana loss, I do believe, well, I don't know that it was the worst performance of the Lanning era. That second half against Oregon State was pretty rough. But I think that the Indiana loss certainly feels worse than the Ohio State loss of last year. Just because, one, you had the long layoff for Oregon, which was pretty rough. And two, Ohio State was just that much better than you. Even though you'd beaten them once, they were playing their best football. I don't know. That one, I think this one's harder to stomach because I feel like Oregon should beat Indiana at home. They were favored to do so. They didn't do it. They got outcoached and outplayed. That Indiana team's awesome, but you should probably win that game. And so it's kind of frustrating that, just kind of the way it went down. It's pretty humbling, I think, for Oregon fan today. But you're going to get those. It's other teams have high-paid coaches and good players too. They're also trying to beat you. I think Indiana, I will say, even though Oregon was off a bye too, I think Indiana is tough to play when they're off a bye because of how intricate their stuff is defensively. Thought they had Dante Moore completely rattled. He was seeing things that weren't there. That's what Indiana does. We knew that. We talked to Lanning about that last week. Suke had been talking about it all week last week, and that's what ended up happening. There's no shame in it. Indiana's done it to a lot of people. They did it a lot worse to Illinois, who was also a top 10 team. They lost by 53. Oregon, tough game. It was 20-20 with 10 minutes left in that game. It was very close. You lost the turnover battle. You missed the field goal. You lost some one-on-one battles. Maybe you didn't think you would lose. Indiana looked really good. You got to tip your cap and you got to move on. I don't think any larger conclusions about Will Stein or the offense or anything need to be drawn. It's get your ass back up and head out to New Jersey next week? Or this week, I mean?
Yep.
They go all the way out to New Jersey to play Rutgers. This is going to be a really interesting one. Look, Rutgers just lost to Washington by a lot up in Seattle, although they were up 10-0. They ended up losing I didn't see the final score. I think it was 38-17 or something. Rutgers is not very good, but, Greg Schiano's there. They're, it's going to be a big game for them with Oregon coming to town. And, this is a great test. This is, and I don't mean test necessarily of just, the matchup against Rutgers. You should beat Rutgers handily. You're favored to do so handily. I think the spread's 17. Oregon is better than Rutgers and should win handily. But I think it's a great test in terms of regrouping after a really tough loss and a really tough home loss that maybe has you rattled a little bit. So that's, it's something we haven't really seen Oregon have to do much, right? Like, I'm trying to think of when the last time, well, that's the first time they've lost in the Big Ten in the regular season.
Yep.
When's the last time you were really curious to see how Oregon bounced back?
Well, wasn't that Washington game the middle of the season that they had lost? I think
the first one?
Yeah, the first one was...
Was it?
Well, because they didn't play. Washington is now the end of season opponent, so I think that was a middle when they were in the Pac-12 still. Yeah, I think that was the first time, like Lanning's first or second season.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look at how they bounced back from their losses. There's only a handful of losses, right?
There's not many. Yeah, I mean, he had an 18-game home winning streak to this point. So the last loss at home was in year 2.
You know what? Let's do this. Let's go on this journey together. We don't have much to look at here, seeing as how he's only been there 3 years. 2022, the Washington loss. So they got bludgeoned by Georgia right out of the gate.
Which that's like LSU before. That's like Auburn early, in the 2010s.
Yeah,
that's happened.
But it was alarming when it happened.
It is. They looked awful in that game.
Yeah, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Then they beat Eastern Washington the next week 70-14.
Yep.
Okay. And then they beat number 12 BYU 41-20. So they bounced back well. Okay. The first loss to Washington was November 12th. So it was later in the season.
Yeah.
They bounced back the next week. They hosted Utah, number 10 Utah, and beat them 20-17. But the next week after that, they blew the second half lead to Oregon State. They won that bowl game over North Carolina that year.
So maybe it is that Civil War would be, no, because that's not a bounce back. That's the end of the year. So no.
And then the Washington loss. Okay, I think the one you're thinking of was the Washington loss in October.
Yes.
The next year.
That's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
They came back and beat Washington State by 14 the next week at home. And then they lost to Washington in the Big Ten championship game.
Yes.
And that knocked it. They beat Liberty in the bowl game. But,
yeah, the Liberty bowl game.
And then last year, they didn't lose until the Ohio State game. And, of course, they rebounded from that with a 59-13 win over Montana State in week 1 this week. Or this year. So, Rutgers, Wisconsin.
It's a get right game, baby.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, that's right. I
But
think.
that was
I
supposed
think. Listen, how many times have we talked about a team losing the same game twice? Penn State just lost the same game three times in a row.
yeah.
And they fired their coach. And I'm not saying that's what happens with Oregon, but you can lose a game twice. And Oregon, this is a good test for the staff to go to New Jersey and make sure that that doesn't happen over an inferior opponent. And then if they do that, look, if they bounce back and beat the crap out of Rutgers, Wisconsin comes in here, they're rudderless, they're terrible. They just got shut up by Iowa. You're going to forget about Indiana, and in 3 weeks you go to Iowa for a fun game. And then it's like it's all right, and it's all still in front of Oregon in the Big Ten. They just they certainly got to hope for, you got to hope for Indiana or Ohio State to drop one at some point. I'm looking at Indiana's schedule here. As good as that team looks, and they don't play Ohio State, where do they lose?
Yeah, they've got a pretty, I wouldn't say like easy, but a decent ride.
Their two toughest games they've already won, Illinois and Oregon.
Yep.
They play Michigan State, UCLA at home, at Maryland, at Penn State, home to Wisconsin, and at Purdue. They might go undefeated, man.
Oh, I think that's an understatement, sir.
How do you go better than undefeated?
Well, no, I'm just saying, you're saying they still might lose a game. I'm saying they will not. I think it's guaranteed.
No, I just said they might go undefeated. I think
I'm saying they will.
In the Big Ten, the Ohio State-Indiana collision course is pretty juicy.
Yeah.
But a lot of strange things can happen. So let's let it play out. Okay. Thank you for all your ears and your texts and your thoughts. I'm sorry I screamed at you today, Duck fans, but some of you, not all of you, some of you are absurd.
I've seen Duck fans fighting outside of Autzen. Some Duck fans need to be screamed at, okay?
Well, some fans of every fan base need to be screamed at.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying, bro?
Oh, damn right.
But I tell you, it's amazing how one loss, the guy has not lost in the Big Ten. One time they lose to a really good top 10 team, and all of a sudden there's all this stuff out there about, the coach Lanning sucks, it's fire stunt. Dude.
Yeah, the fire signs.
You guys are
stuff,
idiots.
Like, my God.